They say the people who love you most are the ones who can hurt you the deepest. But what they don't tell you is that sometimes those same people can also save you in ways you never imagined possible. Picture this: federal agents, handcuffs, your husband's desperate voice echoing across a quiet suburban street as neighbors peek through their curtains, whispering behind shaky hands. The perfect life you've built feels like it's crumbling in slow motion right before your eyes. But that wasn't the moment that broke me. The moment that truly shattered everything I thought I knew about my family came not with the noise of sirens or the sight of steel cuffs, but with a whisper. A tiny human, barely 6 years old, pigtails bouncing and a gap-toothed smile that could melt anyone's heart, leaned close and said words I'll never forget. "Don't cry, Mommy. I recorded everything Daddy did with his secret girlfriend, and I know where he hides the stolen money. My name is Jessica Reed, and this is the story of how my first grader became the mastermind behind the most devastating, brilliant revenge I never saw coming, a story about betrayal so deep it almost destroyed us, and love so fierce it ultimately saved us. 3 months ago, I thought I was living the American dream in Seattle. Senior cybersecurity analyst at Morrison Financial.
Check.
Successful husband running his own boutique investment firm.
Check.
Beautiful daughter who was the absolute center of our universe.
Check.
Joint savings account showing $847,000, every penny carefully saved for Emma's future and our retirement.
Check.
I should have been paying closer attention when that number started disappearing. It was a Tuesday morning in March when my perfect world didn't just crack, it exploded like a bomb going off in my kitchen. I was doing what I did every month, reviewing our bank statements over my usual French roast coffee. Rain was drumming against our windows, creating that cozy Seattle morning atmosphere that used to make me feel so grateful for our life. Then I saw the numbers. Our primary savings account, the one that should have shown nearly $850,000, displayed a balance of $3,247. My hands started shaking so violently I nearly dropped my ceramic mug. The sound it made hitting our granite countertop, that sharp, brittle clink, somehow felt like the sound of my entire world breaking apart. I frantically logged into our online banking, my fingers trembling as I scrolled through transaction after transaction. Massive wire transfers to accounts I'd never seen before. International transfers. All occurring during business hours while I was at work, completely trusting the man I'd married 8 years ago. David. My voice cracked with panic as I called down the hallway. "Can you come here?"
Now.
He appeared in our kitchen doorway, coffee mug in hand, looking perfectly calm. This was the same man who'd kissed me goodbye that very morning. The same man who'd patiently helped Emma with her math homework just the night before. His expensive cologne, the scent that used to make me feel safe and loved, suddenly felt suffocating. "What's wrong, babe?" His voice was steady, untroubled, like he was asking about dinner plans. I turned my laptop screen toward him, my finger trembling as I pointed to the devastating transfers. "Can you explain these?" "David, this is our entire life savings. Emma's college fund. Everything we've worked for." For just a split second, maybe half a heartbeat, something flickered across his face. Relief? Fear? It vanished so quickly I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. "Oh, those." He set down his coffee and leaned against our marble kitchen island with the same casual posture he used when we discussed weekend plans. "I should have mentioned it. The firm is restructuring some investments. International diversification. Very boring stuff, but the returns are going to be incredible." My cybersecurity training, the same instincts that had made me successful at detecting digital fraud for years, started screaming that something was terribly wrong. "David, why wasn't I consulted? This is our personal account. Our family's entire financial future. It's temporary, Jess. We'll see a 30% gain, minimum, by the end of the quarter. You have to trust me." But I couldn't. The way he wouldn't quite meet my eyes. The slight tremor in his voice when he said those words, "Trust me." Everything felt wrong. That weekend, while David took Emma to her soccer practice like nothing had happened, I did what I should have done immediately. I used every professional skill I'd developed over years in cybersecurity to trace those wire transfers. What I discovered made my blood run cold. Our money had been moved through 7 different countries before landing in accounts tied to businesses that existed only on paper. Shell companies with fake addresses and phantom employees. But what made me physically sick was what I found buried in David's digital footprint: email confirmations for plane tickets to the Cayman Islands. 2 tickets. One for David Reed. One for Maria Santos. Maria Santos, David's so-called client coordinator, who'd started working at his firm 6 months ago. The woman with perfect teeth and designer clothes who'd attended our Christmas party. Who'd complimented my cooking and brought Emma a beautiful doll. Who'd been planning to destroy my family the entire time. I sat in my home office until 3 in the morning, following digital breadcrumbs through encrypted networks and offshore banking systems. The picture that emerged was devastating and crystal clear. David's investment firm was nothing more than an elaborate front for money laundering. His high-net-worth clients were criminals looking to clean dirty money through legitimate-looking investments. And our life savings, Emma's entire future, had been the seed money for his criminal enterprise. But what I discovered next changed everything I thought I understood about my family. Hidden in David's cloud storage were hundreds of photos and videos featuring Emma. Not innocent family photos. These were surveillance-style images of Emma at school, at playgrounds, with her friends. And videos of David coaching our 6-year-old daughter to spy on his business meetings. Remember, sweetie, Daddy's meetings are a special secret, okay? Mommy gets worried about work stuff, so we don't want to make her sad. In one video dated just 2 weeks earlier, I watched my husband teach my innocent daughter how to operate a hidden camera. The sight of Emma's eager little face, absolutely thrilled to be part of what she thought was Daddy's game, made bile rise in my throat. When Daddy has friends over, you just press this button and leave it on the bookshelf. It's like hide and seek, but with pictures. I rushed to Emma's room, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. She was sleeping peacefully, her stuffed elephant clutched in her small arms, completely unaware that her father had been using her as an unwitting accomplice in federal crimes. "Emma, sweetheart," I whispered, gently shaking her awake. "I need to ask you about something important." Her sleepy brown eyes focused on me, immediately alert to the tension in my voice. "Is everything okay, Mommy? The special games you play with Daddy, can you tell me about them?" What Emma revealed over the next hour made my hands shake with rage and disbelief. David hadn't just stolen our money. He'd been systematically training our daughter to document his criminal meetings, creating an insurance policy of evidence against his criminal associates, using her innocence as a weapon. But then Emma said something that stopped me cold. "Mommy, I know the games weren't really games." I stared at my daughter, my mind struggling to process her words. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Emma sat up in her bed, and suddenly she looked far older than her 6 years. I figured out pretty quick that Daddy was doing bad things. The men who came to our house were scary. They talked about hurting people. My mouth went completely dry. "Emma, how did you?" "I'm not stupid, Mommy." Her voice was matter-of-fact, but I could see tears gathering in her eyes. "I know you think I'm just a little kid, but I understand more than you think. Daddy was stealing money, and he was using me to spy on bad people." The room seemed to spin around me. "Honey, why didn't you tell me?" Emma's lower lip trembled, and in that moment she looked every bit the frightened child she really was. "Because I was scared Daddy would hurt you if he knew I figured it out. So, I pretended to still think it was a game. But I was really collecting evidence." She climbed out of bed and walked to her closet, pulling out a small backpack decorated with unicorns, the same backpack she carried to school every day. From inside, she retrieved a handful of USB drives. "I made copies of everything, Mommy. All of Daddy's meetings, all the bad people's names, all the places they hide money. I even figured out how to use Daddy's computer to find his secret bank accounts." I stared at the USB drives in my daughter's small hands, my mind completely unable to process what she was telling me. My 6-year-old had not only realized her father was a criminal, she'd been conducting her own sophisticated investigation. Monday morning, I called in sick to work and drove straight to the FBI field office in Seattle. The receptionist raised her eyebrows when I said I needed to report financial crimes involving my husband, but when Agent Rebecca Park saw the evidence Emma had collected, her expression shifted to pure amazement. Mrs. Reed, what your daughter has documented here is absolutely extraordinary. We've been investigating money laundering networks in this region for months, and she's captured more usable evidence than our entire task force. The USB drives contained detailed video recordings of criminal meetings in our living room, audio of David discussing offshore accounts and illegal transactions, and photographs of forged documents. How did a 6-year-old manage to capture all of this? Agent Park asked, clearly struggling to believe what she was seeing. I thought about all the times I'd found Emma on her tablet, assuming she was playing games or watching cartoons. She's always been unusually bright with technology. I thought she was just naturally gifted. Mrs. Reed, your daughter hasn't just been playing with technology. She's been running a sophisticated surveillance operation. These recordings are going to bring down an entire criminal network. That afternoon, I picked Emma up from school as usual, my hands gripping the steering wheel as I tried to process everything that was happening. Our entire life had been built on lies. As we pulled into our driveway, I noticed David's car was gone. Inside, the house felt different, empty in a way that had nothing to do with missing furniture. His home office was completely cleaned out. His clothes were missing from our bedroom. And there was a note on our kitchen counter, written in the familiar handwriting I'd once loved seeing on anniversary cards. Jess, I'm sorry. Take care of Emma. Don't try to find me. Emma found me standing in the kitchen, staring at the note with tears streaming down my face. Our life savings were gone. Our marriage had been a complete lie. The man I'd loved for 8 years had vanished into thin air, leaving us with absolutely nothing. Don't cry, Mommy, Emma said softly, taking my hand in her tiny one. I know where Daddy hides his secrets. Emma led me back to David's empty office and pulled out one more USB drive from behind a loose baseboard, a hiding place I never would have thought to check in a million years. Daddy doesn't know I found this one, she whispered. It's got all his passwords and account numbers. He thinks it's perfectly hidden, but I saw him put it there. The drive contained David's complete financial records, every offshore account, every shell company, every illegal transaction from the past 3 years. But more importantly, it showed the exact location of our stolen money and how to access it. When I showed Agent Park this final piece of evidence, she called it the most comprehensive financial crime documentation she'd ever seen in 20 years with the Bureau. Your daughter has essentially mapped out the entire criminal network, she told me. Can we get our money back? I asked, hardly daring to hope. Mrs. Reed, with this evidence, we can recover everything that belongs to you, plus substantial additional assets that were stolen from other victims. Your daughter has just helped us solve the biggest financial crime case in this district's history. The FBI moved with lightning speed. Within 2 weeks, they'd arrested 17 members of the money laundering network. Assets worth over $200 million were frozen across multiple countries. And David, who thought he was safely hidden in the Cayman Islands with Maria Santos, was arrested trying to access one of the compromised accounts. The phone call came on a Thursday morning. David's voice was panicked, desperate, completely different from the calm man who'd so casually explained away our missing savings. Jess, you have to help me. They've frozen everything. Every account, every asset. How did they possibly find out about the offshore funds? I let the silence stretch for a long moment before responding. Hello, David. Jess, please, I know you're angry, but I need you to call off this investigation. Tell them you made a mistake. Tell them anything. I didn't call any investigation, David. Emma did. The silence on the other end was absolutely deafening. Emma? But she's just a kid. She was playing games. She couldn't possibly understand. She wasn't playing games, David. She was collecting evidence. For months. While you thought you were training her to be your accomplice, she was actually building an airtight case against you. That's impossible. She's 6 years old. She's 6 years old and 10 times smarter than you ever gave her credit for. She figured out you were a criminal and she decided to stop you. She chose protecting our family over protecting your secrets. I could hear David's breathing getting rapid and panicked. Jess, you don't understand what you've done. These people I was working with, they're dangerous. If they think I betrayed them, then maybe you should have thought about that before you used our daughter as an unwitting spy in your criminal enterprise. I hung up the phone. The trial lasted 4 months and made national headlines. David's own meticulous record-keeping, combined with Emma's surveillance footage, provided prosecutors with an absolutely airtight case. The evidence was so comprehensive and damning that several co-conspirators pled guilty rather than face trial. David was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison for money laundering, fraud, child endangerment, and conspiracy. Maria Santos received 15 years for her role in the operation. During the sentencing hearing, the judge made a point of noting the extraordinary circumstances of the case. While I cannot and will not commend the involvement of a child in these criminal activities, it's abundantly clear that Emma Reed showed remarkable courage and intelligence in documenting these crimes. Her actions have led to the recovery of millions of dollars in stolen assets and the complete dismantling of a significant criminal network that was causing harm to families across the country. The asset recovery process took 8 long months, but eventually, every single penny of our legitimate savings was returned, plus interest and additional assets that had been stolen from other victims. The federal government also awarded us a substantial reward for providing evidence that led to the network's complete dismantling. More importantly, Emma began working with Dr. Martina, a child psychologist who specialized in helping children process traumatic experiences. Dr. Martina assured me that Emma's actions showed remarkable resilience and an unusually strong moral compass. She understood right from wrong at a level that's extraordinary for her age, Dr. Martina explained during one of our sessions. Rather than being traumatized by her father's criminal behavior, she took decisive action to stop it. That shows extraordinary strength of character and emotional intelligence. Emma adapted to our new reality with the same intelligence and determination she'd shown during her secret investigation. When classmates asked where her daddy was, she calmly explained that he'd made bad choices and was in timeout for grown-ups. I was offered a significant promotion at Morrison Financial. My experience uncovering David's network made me invaluable for detecting similar schemes. We moved to a beautiful new house, one that David had never set foot in, where Emma could start completely fresh without constant reminders of her father's betrayal. Emma thrived in her new school. Her teachers immediately noted her exceptional abilities with technology and problem-solving. When the local police department learned about her role in the investigation, they invited her to speak to other children about recognizing when adults were making wrong choices. Sometimes grown-ups make really bad choices, Emma told a room full of first graders during a safety presentation. If you see something that doesn't feel right, it's always okay to tell another grown-up you trust. The children listened with rapt attention as this confident little girl explained concepts that most adults struggle with. A full year after David's conviction, I received a letter from him in federal prison. 3 pages of desperate apologies, convoluted explanations, and pathetic attempts to justify his actions. He wanted to rebuild his relationship with Emma, to somehow make amends for what he'd put our family through. I showed the letter to Emma and asked if she wanted to respond. She read it carefully, her young face serious and thoughtful. When she finished, she looked up at me with those intelligent brown eyes that had seen far too much. "Mommy, do you remember when I used to be scared of the monsters under my bed?" I nodded, unsure where she was going with this. "You told me that monsters aren't real, and that the things we're really afraid of are usually things we can fix or change. But sometimes, grown-ups become monsters. And when that happens, we can't fix them. We can only protect ourselves and the people we love." She handed the letter back to me without hesitation. "Daddy chose to be a monster. I helped stop him because I love you and because other families needed to be protected too. But I don't need to talk to monsters." My brilliant, brave daughter had summarized in simple terms what it had taken me months of therapy to understand. 2 years later, Emma is 8 years old and absolutely thriving. She's in the gifted program at school, volunteers at our local animal shelter, and has been invited to speak at law enforcement conferences about children's roles in recognizing financial crimes. Our new home is filled with genuine laughter, real friends, and the kind of honest conversations I never had with David. Emma knows she can tell me anything, ask me anything, and that I'll always tell her the truth, even when the truth is complicated or difficult. Last month, we received news that David's appeals had been denied. He'll serve his full 18-year sentence. Maria Santos was deported after completing her prison term. The money we recovered has been wisely invested, ensuring Emma's future education and our long-term financial security. But more than the money, we recovered something infinitely more valuable: trust, honesty, and the unshakable knowledge that we could survive anything together. What I learned 6 months later would amaze me even more than Emma's original investigation. Agent Park called on a Thursday afternoon, her voice carrying an excitement I hadn't heard since the original case broke wide open. "Jessica, I need to tell you something extraordinary about Emma's evidence collection. We've been analyzing her methods with our behavioral analysts, and we've discovered something that's going to change how we train investigators." She arrived at my office that afternoon with a folder marked Classified Analysis. "Emma didn't just accidentally document your husband's crimes. She developed a systematic approach to surveillance that we're now using to train adult FBI agents." Inside the folder were copies of Emma's handwritten notes, showing how she'd methodically planned her evidence collection. She'd created schedules of when to activate recording devices, detailed maps of where to position cameras for optimal coverage, and even contingency plans for what to do if David became suspicious of her activities. "Jessica, your daughter wasn't just collecting evidence randomly. She was conducting a sophisticated counterintelligence operation that would impress seasoned federal agents with decades of experience." I stared at the documents, realizing that Emma's intelligence went far beyond what I'd ever imagined possible. How did she know to do all this? Where did she learn these techniques? That's what makes this so absolutely remarkable. She figured it out entirely on her own. At 6 years old, she developed investigative techniques that we teach in advanced law enforcement academies to experienced professionals. Agent Park smiled with genuine admiration. "We'd like Emma's permission to use her methods in our official FBI training programs. She's created a revolutionary new approach to financial crime investigation that could help catch criminals across the entire country." When I asked Emma about it that evening, she shrugged with the casual confidence that had become her trademark. "I just wanted to catch Daddy before he could hurt more people. It really wasn't that hard. You just have to pay attention to everything and remember it all." Today, Emma is 10 years old. Her bedroom walls are covered with thank you letters from families whose stolen money was recovered using investigation techniques she helped develop. She regularly consults with law enforcement agencies across the country, speaks at schools about recognizing financial crimes, and has been featured in national magazines as an inspiring example of how children can make a meaningful difference in the world. But despite all this recognition, she's still fundamentally a kid who loves animals, giggles at cartoons, and asks for help with her math homework. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if David had never betrayed us, if our family had remained intact. But then I watch Emma using her extraordinary gifts to protect other families from the same devastation we experienced, and I realize we're exactly where we're meant to be. The 6-year-old who accidentally became a spy is now deliberately becoming a guardian for others. And every single day, I'm more proud of the remarkable young woman she's becoming. David taught Emma to be observant, to pay attention to details, to document everything carefully. He just never imagined she'd use those skills to bring him to justice. Sometimes the best revenge isn't something you plan or orchestrate. Sometimes it's something your child delivers with a pure, unshakable conviction that protecting family is more important than protecting secrets. And sometimes, the most devastating betrayal becomes the foundation for the most extraordinary strength and purpose. My daughter saved us both. She saved countless other families too. She didn't just expose her father's crimes. She showed the world what true courage looks like. If you want more extraordinary true stories like Emma's, hit subscribe and join us for the next one. Because sometimes the most powerful heroes are the ones you least expect. And their stories? You won't want to miss them.